हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू टारगेट फॉर आईक्यू। मैं प्राची आचार्य आप सभी का स्वागत करती हूं हमारे इस नए वीडियो में। हम बात करेंगे जजमेंट राइटिंग की। तो पिछले वीडियो में हमने देखा था कि जजमेंट राइटिंग में क्या क्या तरीके का किस तरीके से क्वेश्चन पूछा जाता है एमपी जुडिशरी में, और उसके रिलेशन में जो इशू फ्रेमिंग है, चार्ज फ्रेमिंग है और बेसिकली फॉर्मेट देखा था। उस वीडियो में एक गलती हो गई थी। वो गलती को आज मैं सुधारने के लिए आपको हायरार्की ऑफ कोर्ट्स बताऊंगी। वो मैंने टाइटल ऑफ द जजमेंट जो होता है, टाइटल जहाँ पे लिखते हैं वहाँ पे सिविल कोर्ट और क्रिमिनल कोर्ट के बेसिस पे आप क्रिमिनल कोर्ट्स में जेएमएफसी फर्स्ट क्लास एंड जेएमएफसी सेकंड क्लास होता है। ऑब्वियसली बात है, आप सभी लोग जानते हैं। उसके लिए बहुत बहुत माफ़ी चाहती हूँ। उस वक्त बोर्ड पे लिखा हुआ था जुडिशियल मैजिस्ट्रेट फर्स्ट क्लास और मैं आपको बता रही थी सिविल कोड के फॉर्मेट के बारे में। तो उस चीज़ को आप प्लीज़ करेक्ट कर लीजिएगा और इस वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन में आपको लिंक भी मिल जाएगा पिछले वीडियो का। तो जिन साथियों को भी उस कारण से कठिनाई हुई है तो वो प्लीज़ आप एक बार उसको रेफ़र कर सकते हैं। तो आज मैं आपको बताऊंगी हायरार्की ऑफ कोर्ट्स बेसिकली। तो सिविल कोर्ट में देखिए, यहाँ सिविल जज फर्स्ट क्लास, सिविल जज सेकंड क्लास, स्मॉल कोर्ट ऑफ स्मॉल कॉजेस, ये बेसिकली हायरार्की है। यहाँ सबॉर्डिनेट जज फर्स्ट क्लास, सबॉर्डिनेट जज सेकंड क्लास को सिविल जज और सिविल जज सेकंड क्लास, फर्स्ट क्लास एंड सेकंड क्लास भी बोलते हैं। तो एमपी में क्या होता है, सिविल जज फर्स्ट क्लास, यहाँ पे उनका पिक्यूनरी जुरिस्डिक्शन जो होता है वो 5 लाख से 1 करोड़ तक होता है, और सिविल जज सेकंड क्लास का पिक्यूनरी जुरिस्डिक्शन अप टू 5 लाख होता है। तो ये बेसिकली हायरार्की है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट, ऑब्वियसली द कोर्ट ऑफ द एपेक्स कोर्ट कम्स फर्स्ट, देन हाई कोर्ट एंड देन डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट। इसमें एडिशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट जज का भी कोर्ट होता है। फिर सबॉर्डिनेट जज फर्स्ट क्लास, सबॉर्डिनेट जज सेकंड क्लास एंड कोर्ट्स ऑफ स्मॉल कॉजेज. Again, if you look into the criminal procedure code, this is given in civil procedure code. So the hierarchies and the pecuniary jurisdiction, all of it you will get from the CPC, that is your civil procedure code. Let's come to criminal procedure code, wherein you will find the hierarchy in the criminal procedure code. Here again the Supreme Court, High Court, Sessions Court, again additional sessions court is also there and all that. So JMFC first class, JMFC second class, and then you find Chief Judicial Magistrate also in this regard. So this is basically the general hierarchy. Most of your questions will be dealt around in JMFC first class and second class, based on how much the punishment is given, and based on the facts and circumstances and the questions you will have to decide JMFC whether your case and the title of the judgment should be JMFC second class or JMFC first class. Coming on to this, again based on the question paper, and most of your questions will be coming from this area, because majority of the pecuniary jurisdiction, I mean the amount which has been asked is generally I'm saying according to the question, it will be covered in this too. So basically civil judge first class and civil judge second class would be covering your most questions. So as I told you in my previous videos that MP judiciary is having 4 questions in your paper 4. The first question is about issue framing. The second question coming from the CRPC, that is not CRPC, I mean the criminal law, that is your charge framing. The third one is your civil judgment writing, and the fourth one is your criminal judgment writing. So these are the 4 questions which has to be dealt with in paper 4, and I told you how basically the judgment has to be written. So today I am just going to tell you taking a clue from your question paper, taking the question paper and how it comes in the examination. So basically the strategizing what actually comes in the examination, and how you should look into the question paper in that regard. So when it comes to issue framing, or when it comes to your appreciation of evidence and then writing the judgment, basically they give you the facts of the case, the plaintiff's story, the defendant's story, the plaintiff's evidence, the defendant's evidence, their arguments, and based on that you need to form basic issue. In the question of issue framing you have to form the issue, and on the third question, that is your civil judgment writing question, you have to first form the issue, and then based on those issues, and if issue is given then you have to appreciate the evidence on those issues. If issues are not given, then you have to form the issue first and then appreciate the evidences given by both the parties and formulate your opinion and provide the relief and cost whatever is in your order in the judgment. So basically, when it comes to issue framing and when it comes to writing the judgment, the first and foremost thing which you must keep in mind, that you should not use very lengthy sentences. When you use lengthy sentences, when you read Supreme Court's judgment or High Court's judgment, it's very but natural that if the sentences are very complex, you lose track on reading. So this is basically a tip for good writing, could be beneficial for your paper second also the article writing paper and all. So use very simple sentences and not very complex sentences. You use I mean formulate the sentences without using the complex sentences and all that. So that is one thing which must be kept in mind. The other thing is about issue framing is, when you read the story of the plaintiff and defendant, a lot of things are things to be sidelined. Those things should not be, I mean those are the stories of one side, those are stories of the other side. Now based on the disputed fact, you have to make an issue. The undisputed fact is what? If both of them are agreeing on something, if both of them are agreeing that there was a contract, the defendant is also saying that there was a contract. I will give you an example on how the questions are asked. So basically the plaintiff's case was, taking one of your questions from previous year questions, the plaintiff's case was that the plaintiff has given 5,000 rupees as an earnest money for an agreement of sale of a particular land to the defendant. Plaintiff said that according to its story, he after the earnest money, it was decided that the defendant would execute the sale deed, and then the remainder 20,000 would be paid to the defendant. So this was basically the story, and now the defendant is not is not ready to measure the land and execute the sale deed. So this was the question, this was the story of the plaintiff. The defendant's side of the story was, there was a contract, that's fine. In the contract it was not mentioned that after the measurement of the land, only he would get the remainder amount, and then he would have to execute. So basically the time of doing things was put into question. And he also said that the pecuniary value of the court was kept at 20,000, but the actual value of the suit property is 25,000. Taking 5,000 as the earnest money and 20,000 as the remainder amount, it boils down to 25,000, and plaintiff is showing that the amount is only 20,000. So this was the case of the defendant, and defendant said that since the plaintiff did not pay the remainder amount, that was the 20,000 amount, and that is why he is not executing the sale deed. Now based on that they have given evidences. So in your question paper the evidences are also given. That plaintiff is saying that there was a breach of contract from the side of the defendant. He is not ready and willing to perform his part of the contract, and since he has performed his part of the contract, he has given the earnest money at the particular time, and he is not he is not measuring the land beforehand. So he is not liable to give, the plaintiff is not liable to give him 20,000 rupees, because after the measurement of land itself he was liable for giving the remainder amount, and after the execution of the sale deed, which was not happening. So he wants specific performance of the contract. Now the defendant's story was, since he is not paying the remainder amount, it's not he is not liable to execute the sale deed, and in the contract it was not written that he had to measure the land when the plaintiff is there. So this is basically the defendant's story. The only point which was mentioned according to the defendant was that he would give 5,000 as an earnest money, and then at the time of execution of the sale deed he would give 20,000, that is the remainder amount. So these were the facts of the plaintiff, these were the facts of the defendant. Now based on those facts you have to make issue. So in issue framing a lot of things, so I have told you a lot many stories, and in the question paper also 2.5 pages story would be there. Now you have to read things in such a manner that you kind of get into what are disputed fact, what are not disputed fact. and how you should frame the issue. Now before coming down to the issue framing, you should know order 10, order 14. So these are the areas in the procedural laws, you should know these. And in the substantial law, since this was the case of specific relief act, now you need to know that specific relief act related provisions are where. First of all, you should know under what section this has to be filed. So under section 10 this case has to be filed. So in the introduction you have to say while you are writing the judgment and you are saying that this was the introducing the facts of the case, now you have to mention the section number also. So under section this, the case is this, and then both the parties have admitted these facts. This is the plaintiff story, this is the defendant. So everything has to be in very much in sync with your substantial law and the other laws, so procedural laws. So these are the things which have to be kept in mind, and we at Target for IQ are planning to do it from the very scratch. We will tell you basically the substantial law that in every act there are few provisions which you must remember while going for judgment writing case. So we will be providing those pinpointing those sections particularly, and then we would be providing you with procedural backness and how to use those procedural law in your judgment writing. And then based on the question papers and based on our analysis from different judicial services examination, we will provide you the basic fundamental questions and also practice with the format, giving you the questions and providing you a lot of times, giving you the question and telling you to write how you should write the paper and then correcting it as well. So this is what we are planning to do. You can join our course by calling on this number 7500110314, and I promise you for the fact that the issue framing and the charge framing, the basic fundamental things everyone will, maybe you will get in the books and everything, but the point being that you should be very well aware about the substantial and the procedural laws both. So these are the things which we will be keeping in mind. Coming to the questions which we are discussing, the first question would be because there was a dispute onto the basic fundamental thing, that is the suit property, the suit, the amount of suit. So the plaintiff was saying that the suit is for 20,000, the defendant was saying that it was for 25,000, and you know that order 7 clause 11 also points out if there is a devaluation of the suit, so there would be it would be rejected. So considering that also it could be framed as an issue. So based on the disputed, so I just gave you an example of how you should how your mind should work while framing the issue. This could be one issue about the suit value. The defendant, because he is saying that it is the suit value should be of 25,000, the plaintiff is saying that it is for 20,000. So regarding this and then the plaintiff is saying that he was ready and willing to perform the contract. The defendant was saying that plaintiff was not ready and willing to perform the contract. Now the question is on whom the burden should lie, and these are the factors which we will be discussing in our paid groups. So if you want, you can join our group and take query on the given number 7500110314. Thank you, stay tuned.